Welcome back to Living Diabetes. Today we're going to answer the most fundamental question of all. What exactly is diabetes? What is happening inside your body? I find that once people truly understand the mechanics of this condition, everything else starts to make more sense. So let's build that foundation together. To understand diabetes, we first need to understand how your body normally handles the food you eat. Let's start from the beginning. When you eat a meal, let's say a plate of rice with some chicken and vegetables, your digestive system gets to work breaking that food down into its component parts. The carbohydrates in that rice get broken down into simple sugars, the most important of which is glucose. Glucose is the primary fuel that your body runs on. Your brain uses it, your muscles use it, your organs use it. Every cell in your body needs glucose to function. Now, once that glucose is released from your digestive system, it enters your bloodstream. This is what we measure when we check your blood glucose level. We're measuring how much glucose is floating around in your blood at that moment. Here's where things get interesting. Glucose in your blood is useful, but glucose floating around in your blood isn't actually doing much good. It needs to get inside your cells to be used as energy. Think of it like this. Imagine your cells are houses, and glucose is the electricity that powers those houses. The electricity lines run past every house in the neighborhood, but until that electricity actually gets into the house and connects to the wiring, it can't power anything. It's just passing by. So, how does glucose get from the bloodstream into the cells? This is where insulin comes in, and insulin is the key character in our story. Insulin is a hormone produced by your pancreas, which is an organ that sits behind your stomach. Specifically, insulin is made by clusters of cells within the pancreas called the islets of Langerhans, and within those islets, the beta cells are the ones producing insulin. When your blood glucose rises after a meal, your pancreas detects this and releases insulin into your bloodstream. Now, insulin acts like a key. Every cell in your body has what we can think of as locks on its surface called insulin receptors. When insulin arrives at a cell and fits into that receptor, like a key fitting into a lock, it unlocks the cell and allows glucose to enter. Once inside, the glucose can be used immediately for energy, or it can be stored for later use. This is a beautifully designed system. You eat food, glucose enters your blood. Your pancreas releases insulin. Insulin unlocks your cells. Glucose enters and powers your body. Your blood glucose level comes back down to normal. Everything is in balance. Diabetes occurs when this system breaks down, and it can break down in different ways, which is why we have different types of diabetes. But the end result is always the same. Glucose cannot get into the cells where it's needed, so it builds up in the bloodstream instead. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like. Imagine those houses again, full of people waiting for electricity so they can turn on their lights, run their appliances, and go about their lives. But the electricity isn't getting in. Meanwhile, the power lines outside are overloaded with electricity that has nowhere to go. Inside the houses, people are struggling in the dark, hungry for power. Outside, the excess electricity is causing problems, damaging the power lines and the surrounding infrastructure. This is essentially what happens in diabetes. Your cells are starving for glucose even though there's plenty of it in your blood. They're sending out distress signals, telling your body they need fuel. Meanwhile, all that excess glucose in your bloodstream is causing damage to your blood vessels, your nerves, your organs. Your body is simultaneously experiencing scarcity inside the cells and excess in the bloodstream. It's a cruel irony. Now, when your body detects that cells aren't getting the fuel they need, it doesn't just sit there and do nothing. It tries to find alternative solutions. One thing it does is start breaking down fat for energy. Now, using fat for energy isn't inherently bad, but when it happens excessively and in the context of insulin deficiency, it produces byproducts called ketones. We'll talk more about ketones in a future episode, but for now, just know that high levels of ketones can be dangerous and lead to a condition called diabetic ketoacidosis. Your body also tries to get rid of the excess glucose in your blood. How does it do this? Through your kidneys. Your kidneys filter your blood, and when there's too much glucose, they try to flush it out through your urine. This is why one of the classic symptoms of diabetes is frequent urination. Your body is literally trying to urinate out the excess sugar, and because you're urinating so much, you become dehydrated, which is why another classic symptom is excessive thirst. Your body is telling you to drink more because you're losing so much fluid. This also explains why people with undiagnosed or poorly controlled diabetes often lose weight despite eating normally or even more than usual. The glucose from their food isn't getting into their cells, so their body thinks it's starving and starts breaking down fat and muscle for energy. The food they're eating is essentially passing through without being properly utilized. So, to summarize what diabetes is at its core, it's a condition where glucose cannot effectively move from your bloodstream into your cells. This happens either because your pancreas isn't producing enough insulin, or because your cells have become resistant to insulin's effects, or some combination of both. The result is high blood glucose levels, which over time cause damage throughout your body, while simultaneously your cells are deprived of the fuel they need. Understanding this helps explain why the main goal of diabetes treatment is to keep blood glucose levels as close to normal as possible. When we give you medication, whether it's tablets or insulin, we're trying to restore that normal process of getting glucose into your cells. When we ask you to pay attention to your diet, we're trying to control how much glucose enters your bloodstream in the first place. When we encourage physical activity, it's because exercise actually helps your cells become more sensitive to insulin, making it easier for glucose to get in. Now, you might be wondering why this system fails in the first place. Why do some people develop diabetes while others don't? This involves genetics, lifestyle factors, autoimmune processes, and a host of other influences, which we'll explore in detail in upcoming episodes. For now, what matters is that you understand the basic mechanism. I also want to address something I hear from patients frequently. They feel blamed for their diabetes, as if they caused it through bad choices. Let me be very clear about this. Diabetes is not a moral failing. Yes, lifestyle factors play a role in type 2 diabetes, but so do genetics, age, ethnicity, and factors completely outside your control. Type 1 diabetes has nothing to do with lifestyle at all. It's an autoimmune condition. So please, if you've been carrying guilt about your diagnosis, I want you to let that go. What matters now is not how you got here, but what you do moving forward. Before we close today, let me quickly introduce a concept we'll return to many times throughout this podcast, and that's the concept of blood glucose targets. Because your body's normal system is impaired, we set targets for what your blood glucose should be at various times, fasting before meals, after meals, and so on. We also measure something called HbA1c, which gives us an average of your blood glucose over the past 2 to 3 months. Understanding these targets and what they mean will be crucial as we continue our journey together. In our next episode, we're going to explore the differences between type 1 and type 2 diabetes. These are often confused, and I find that many patients aren't entirely clear on which type they have or what makes it different from the other. It's important to understand these distinctions because the causes, the treatment approaches, and the daily management can be quite different. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this explanation has given you a clearer picture of what's happening in your body. Remember, knowledge is power, and the more you understand about diabetes, the better equipped you are to manage it. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next episode.